Hello, hello, and welcome to yet another episode of Teens Biz Talk podcast. We are so happy to be here today with our guest, man oh man. He is fresh from a trip of doing wonderful and amazing things. We're super excited. Can't wait to hear what's going on and what he has in store. Teens Biz Talk podcast, in case this is the first time that you are listening, is a podcast all about teenage entrepreneurship and business. We have an opportunity to talk to other teenage entrepreneurs, hear what's going on in their business. We also talk to other seasoned business professionals who are able to give advice and tips on business success. Today's episode is being sponsored by Bateman Empowering Educators. At Bateman Empowering Educators, we help your teenager take away the trial and error method of learning about money and replace it with a practical blueprint, to equip them to create a five-star financial future. Be sure to check us out below, check out the link, see what we have available, what types of resources we have. So now we are about to get into it. We are so excited today to have with us none other than Mr. Sidney Keys III. He is the CEO of Books and Bros. He is a speaker. He is a philanthropist. He is an author. Man, oh man. Hello, Sidney. How are you today?
Hello, Miss Bateman. I'm really good today. How are you?
I am well. I am well. Thank you again so much for taking time out of what I know is a very busy schedule to come and talk to our community. I know they can't wait to hear what it is that you have to share, what it is that you've been doing, what it is you have planned to do. So, why don't you just get started by telling us a little bit more about yourself?
Of course. So, a little bit more about myself is that I'm 16 years old now, and I started my company, Books and Bros, when I was 10 years old. So,
Mm.
Books and Bros is a book club that I started when I was 10 to advocate for African American literacy in boys the ages 7 to 13. So, originally, it started as kind of just like a tight-knit community. Like me and my friends just wanted a place to read, specifically African American literacy, after my mom realized that there was a void in the literature that I was reading. And
Mm.
so I realized when she took me to the only African American children's bookstore in St. Louis that I wanted to read more books with characters who looked like me. And I figured that other people would want to do the same too. So I ended up asking the bookstore owners if they had a book club that I could join. And they said, no, the only one that we know of similar to what you're asking for is for girls. And so me being
Mm.
10-year-old Sydney, I was like, you know what, why don't I just start one for my boys then? And so that's exactly what I did, and that's how Books and Bros was born. So we started our first meetup with about 5 boys going, and now we've been able to reach over 700 internationally.
Wow, over 700. That is quite a significant reach.
Yes.
Awesome. So, when you first started, were there any obstacles that you ran into in the beginning?
Yes, there were absolutely a lot of obstacles running into in the beginning, specifically being funding as well as just being determined. So funding in the way that books are not cheap. So we have to find ways to like talk to authors, talk to bookstores to see if we can get books donated before we buy them because buying them for a large amount of like mass buying them is very expensive and we didn't really have that money in the beginning to be doing that. So we had
Okay.
to come up with ways, which we did to get over that hump. As well, one meetup specifically, it was Super Bowl Sunday back in like 2017, I want to say. It was
Hmm.
when I was really young, and my mom was like, "We're not canceling this meetup. We're gonna have it. Football players need to read too." And so we still hosted the meetup and everything. And me being like 11-year-old Sydney at the time, no one showed up, and I was really disheartened. There was maybe like one other boy there. And so we brought like all this stuff to give away to everyone, and we had to walk all the way back to the car with it after the meetup was over.
Hmm.
And I told my mom after that meetup, I was like, Mom, I don't really want to do this anymore. Like nobody's coming. And she was like, just give it one more month to me and we can see them. And literally the next month we got contacted by NBC News and they told us that they wanted to do a story on the book club and me. And it was amazing. And we had an influx of membership spiked to like 30 after that. So everyone was like really happy.
Wow, that is great. Well, I'm so glad that you had your mom there to provide support, right? To help
Mhm.
you keep going and say, you know what, just give it a little bit more time to see what could happen. So as a result of that, what type of advice would you give to another young teenage entrepreneur that's up and coming that is maybe discouraged in the way that things are going, but what if they don't have that same type of support that you had? What advice would you give them?
What advice I would give to other aspiring entrepreneur teenagers if they don't have the support that I had is honestly just to like stay determined because what we're doing is something that no, that I hasn't done before. We've never heard of a African American book club for boys. So this is like a whole new trail that we're blazing in a sense. And if you're doing something similar to that, if you can keep on pushing and staying determined with your mission, it's gonna
Mhm.
pay out so it's gonna pay out so amazing in the long run if you can just keep pushing now and finding people as well that will help you and support you in your journey, whether that be friends, adults, anything, people that could just come out one time even, just things like that. So just talk to your community and communicate when you need things.
Okay, that is great, great advice. So, along those lines, you mentioned in terms of just reaching out to other people or connecting with other people. Definitely, and I'm sure you can speak to this, right? Networking is very important in business, right? To get things done because you cannot do it by yourself.
Mhm.
So, in light of just how we've been these past couple of years, right, with COVID and just things going on politically, and there hasn't been as much kind of in real life things going on, how would you recommend teenage entrepreneurs actually network, right, in today's world? And just kind of what does that look like?
Yeah, so networking in today's world, we are slowly getting back into like physically kind of shaking hands, everything like that. But aside from that, within the past couple of years, you just kind of have to do your own research in a sense. So if you have like a mission that is specifically in one like branch, like if you're in literacy like I am, then I'll go around and email people, find emails from the Civil Rights Museum and their literacy organizations. So using email to your advantage is a huge benefit, and being able to research that online is things that it's free. So you can literally just look up whatever you want online, find someone who's in that department, email them, and network with them virtually and have Zooms, things of that nature. So that's what I think is working best for the pandemic at the moment.
Okay, great, great. So, I would imagine you have quite a bit going on, right, in terms of the business. And then we also mentioned here you're a speaker and philanthropist and author. What are some ways that you are able to balance kind of what you do, right? How do you work your time management so that things can get done?
So a big help to making sure my time is managed, like time management wise, is my mother. So she helps a lot with managing me. She's like known as like my momager or my manager. So she helps me a lot with managing my schedule with school, sports, speaking, philanthropy, books and bros, just everything. So she'll keep everything under a calendar and she'll tell me ahead of time, like, hey, we have this and this coming up this weekend. We need to get this done after practice or before practice, and she'll be like dedicating some time to me if I'm in the middle of writing a book. She'll be like, okay, we're gonna dedicate this chunk of time in the dates for you to write your book. So she's really like on top of it when it comes to managing me and keeping my schedule in check so that I'm not overworking myself, but I'm still getting enough work done to be productive.
Okay, that sounds great. So you mentioned earlier, right, that I believe it was NBC you said had reached out to you, and I had seen a couple of things happening on your Instagram page lately.
Mhm.
Can you share with us a little bit about what was going on and what kind of great work were you doing?
Yeah, so recently I just took a trip to Washington, Seattle, Washington.
Hmm.
And so I went up there to Bellevue specifically because I got invited as a T-Mobile changemaker to go up there as 22 young changemakers across the nation to go up there and basically talk about my mission and get
Wow.
funding as well as advice and networking with T-Mobile executives. And it was an entire camp. It was like a whole week wide thing, and the connections that I made there were amazing. So we were able to do things such as like pitching. So they helped us with our pitching as well as giving us advice on budgeting and a bunch of other things to help our businesses grow.
Wow. So was there any can you give us two big takeaways that other teen entrepreneurs may find helpful?
Yeah, for sure. So two big takeaways. One takeaway would definitely be, hmm, definitely be like writing everything down. So whether that be budgeting, so budgeting is a huge like that's like what I kind of like was trying to get more into. So like
Mhm.
fixing and learning how to budget things. So budgeting because that's going to be a huge thing, like especially if you're a young entrepreneur, so you have less funding in general, unless you go in through like grants and other resources like that. But you have to make sure you're spending your money in the right places as well as developing a team as well. So they talked a lot to us about developing a team. So whether that being getting like people from your school or even hiring people online, having a team is really helpful. So having different members doing different jobs is something that they really wanted us to take away from T-Mobile.
Okay. Wow. That was great. I wrote that down for my own business. That was very, very good. So you shared in the beginning, right, a big obstacle that happened. And I would imagine there have been other times in your business, maybe when you had a plan to do something and it didn't quite go the
Mhm.
way that you wanted it to go. Is there anything that you can share that you wanted to do this particular thing in your business? It didn't quite go the way that you wanted it to go, but you learned a lesson from it.
Yeah, so definitely, yeah. So for a minute now, we've been trying to develop Books and Bros in multiple chapters across the states that are
Ooh.
running simultaneously and also consistently, so we don't have to kind of like go back and forth like they have their own head in a sense. And so we've been wanting to do that for a minute now. And it's kind of been like kind of dwindling like back and forth. Like it's there sometimes and then there it's not. But we've learned that we just need to get the consistent like funding as well as the support in like different states. So finding that before we try to develop a chapter is something that we're learning now. And so we're trying to figure that out now.
Okay. Awesome. Wow. So I really, really appreciate all that you've given, the importance in the business of writing everything down, right? Because we cannot remember everything up here. The importance you talked about of budgeting, so we know where our money is coming from and where it is going once we get it. Developing a team, again, because we cannot do it all by ourselves. Thank you so, so much. Was there anything that you wanted to share that we didn't actually talk about today?
Um, about Books and Bros itself, I have like a side that I wanted to share about the business, if that's okay.
Of course, go for it.
So not only is Books and Bros a business, but we also have a nonprofit side of the organization called Chubb Cares Adopt a Bro, which is completely separate from Books and Bros, but they both mash together, so they work together. So since Books and Bros is a business and it's $25 a month to be in the book club, we wanted to create something to where if boys wanted to be in the book club and they couldn't afford it, then they could still be in the book club with people essentially adopting them, like Adopt a Bro. So paying for their membership, sponsoring them. And so we created Adopt a Bro Chubb Cares to do that. And so you can essentially sponsor a member to be in the book club for free if they can't afford it. And we use that nonprofit side a lot to make sure that boys can always stay in the book club if they can't afford it. And the reason that we even named it Adopt a Bro Chubb Cares is because of my late uncle Chubb, who actually kind of was failed by the school system in a sense. So he was very smart and actually tested as gifted, but this was after his school system tried to deem him as special needs. So when they tried to deem him as special needs and he tested as gifted, they were like, oh, okay. So they just threw him back in regular courses. Like they didn't challenge him or anything. And he ended up getting bored with school. And so he got into the wrong crowd, and sadly, he isn't here today. So we didn't want that to happen with any other boy having the resources just not given to them. So we wanted to create something to make sure that that wouldn't happen again.
Okay. Wow. That is awesome. So, to all our community listening, make sure as soon as you finish listening to this podcast that you hop on, you either join the actual book club, $25 a month, and you go ahead and hop on to the Adopt a Bro Chubb Cares to help out someone else. And how can our community get in touch with you and continue to support you, Sydney?
Yeah, so you can get in touch with me a couple of ways. So we have an Instagram which is called Books and Bros LLC. You can, or no, it's just Books and Bros. So you can follow us on Instagram there to stay in touch. And as well, our email info@booksandbros.com, where you can reach us there directly.
Okay, awesome. And for those of you who didn't write that down fast enough, no worries. It will be right down in the description on the podcast and on YouTube channel. So, wow, this has been wonderful and amazing. Thank you so much again, Sydney, for taking time and coming to share what is obviously a passion of yours. I can see the excitement and man, I'm just excited to see what it is you're going to continue to do in the future.
Thank you so much. It's really been a pleasure being here with you today.
Awesome. Awesome. So, to everyone, if you were listening to the podcast on any of the podcast platforms, please be sure to subscribe. If you are watching on our YouTube channel, also please be sure to subscribe and put a note down below. What did you enjoy most about this conversation that we had today with Sydney? And before we go, as I always want to remind you all, everything in creation was created with a gift inside of it. That includes you. So go and share your gift with the world. We'll see you next time.